Recording live in the Lucky Number 7 Lounge, this is Dine Drink Vegas, the podcast. By and for everybody stuck at home wishing they were in the land of neon lights and bad decisions. I'm your host, John, also known as the Baller on a Budget, and you've stumbled across episode number 98, where we're going to bring you what I think is tasty booze. Bill seems skeptical, and some Las Vegas news. But before we can do any of that, of course, we have to welcome in the founder of Dine Drink Travel and Dine Drink Vegas himself. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I can only be speaking of the high roller, formerly of the High Plains, the leader of the luxury lounge, the king of comps, the Alabama slammer, Bill. Good evening, Bill. How are you, sir?
I am excellent because I get to go to Biloxi this weekend. How are you, John?
I'm not as good as you because I probably get to go to extra work this weekend. So you win the weekend. Would you care to preview your Biloxi, or do you want to save that for the end of the episode?
No reason I can't talk about it a little bit. It's only a one-night trip because I've got some business in town, but I'm going to go to Harrah's. Check it out. That content will be available on the Dine Drink Travel YouTube channel. And I'm also going to go catch a Biloxi Shuckers game because that is just a beautiful minor league stadium. And I don't know, seems like a pleasant way to spend a Friday night.
Well, let's go from shucking to jiving about our drink of the day. Ooh, that was a terrible segue. The drink of the day this week is called the Rattlesnake. Now, this is a variant on a whiskey sour, on a proper whiskey sour, meaning a proper whiskey sour will have egg whites shaken into it, not just bar mix and bad whiskey. So here's the ingredient rundown: 2 ounces of rye whiskey, 3/4 ounce of lemon juice, freshly squeezed. Please, half an ounce of Demerara syrup or whatever simple syrup you have on hand, a 1/4 ounce of absinthe or any other uh, anise or licorice flavored liqueur, 1 large egg white, and then we're going to garnish with Angostura. All of the liquid ingredients except the Angostura go into your shaker with no ice. You perform what's called a dry shake. Shake vigorously so you begin to foam up the egg white. We're not looking for meringue, but we are looking for a little bit of texture. Add the ice, shake again, and then double strain into a chilled coupe glass. And you're supposed to swirl Angostura on the top. Bill, I'm not going to lie, my foam didn't set enough to let me swirl the Angostura. So, Bill, before we get into what you think of the drink, let's talk whiskey. What whiskey did you use for this?
The Templeton Rye, because I'm not a huge rye fan. I keep a couple of ryes around the house because I've got some friends who like a rye old fashioned. And basically, that was just the rye I had out on the service bar in my kitchen.
Okay, that works real well. I went with Jack Daniel's Bottled and Bond 100 Proof Rye, which has quickly become my go-to rye. I really love the stuff. But you know what? Templeton gets the job done.
So
Bill,
why
oh,
why would you use a half decent rye though? Because there are so many ingredients in this drink. That was one of the other thoughts. Had I had a good rye, I don't think I would have used it because I also added egg white, lemon juice, demerara bitters, and a partridge in a pear tree.
so partially because at 100 proof, I wanted an assertive rye that would stand up to the other ingredients. You do have a lot going on, so a higher proof rye will be assertive, and partially because I just don't have any cheaper rye on hand. Old old Overholt 100 proof would be an excellent choice for this. It's usually under $20 a bottle, depending on when you where you live, maybe up to 25. So yeah, there's some cheap ryes out there I might have grabbed. I still would have wanted a bonded 100 proofer so that it cuts through.
Okay, that makes good sense.
So
So
what was your take on it, Bill?
so I neither loved nor hated it. The visual presentation of this drink isn't good. I did get the foam to set. That's kind of pretty. I enjoy the texture of that, but the visual presentation suggests to me what happened about halfway through my colonoscopy prep a month ago. Like it just doesn't look good. It's brown. Um,
Huh.
yeah. So I don't
Mine's not quite that.
yeah, okay. So I'm looking at yours. Yours is a radically different color, but I followed the recipe as printed. Mine absolutely came out brown. The one thing I did have to adjust, I don't have any absinthe. I just don't want to pay $60 for a bottle of absinthe. So what I did was I just shook it with like 1 clove of star anise to get to something like the same thing. But I don't think that would have impacted the color. Rachel tasted it and thought there was too much lemon in it. She
Oh,
thought it was too sour, but my basic thing is I like it just fine. I don't love it. As you and I have discussed, if this is episode 98, we've discussed this now in 99 of our 98 episodes. I'd just rather have a drink that took fewer ingredients and was simpler to put together, but it's fine. I mean, does that make sense?
yeah, it does. I will say we wouldn't have much of a drinking segment if it was just what did we pour in a glass this week. So I get that sometimes these are not your preferred beverages, but I got to say, I like this. I don't know that I prefer it that much more than a standard whiskey sour. And the reason I say that is my normal whiskey sour, you just take out the absinthe, you take out the Angostura, and you garnish with the maraschino cherry. And I like the herbal notes of the Angostura. You know, I love Angostura and even the licorice notes of the absinthe. But yeah, I think you could very easily cut those out and go with just your standard whiskey sour.
Well, and the Angostura, sitting on top of the egg white was pretty. I didn't get the swirl pattern, but that still looked nice. Um, you've inspired me. So this is now 100% of the drinks I've ever had in my lifetime that had egg white in them. And after we record, I may go make a second one. I may just make a standard whiskey sour and see if I like that any better.
Yeah, I think you should give it a shot because, most bars will just make their whiskey sour with, sour mix and whiskey, and it's usually like Kentucky Deluxe. It's a
Ooh.
pretty forgettable drink, but when you make it with fresh squeeze juice, you get that texture. I will tell you too, if you want extra foam, if you have one of those coffee electric whisk, you can foam that up. And then slight preview of future drinks of the day. And you're gonna hate this because you like being simple. Have you ever had a Jose Andres Cloud Margarita?
That is a lot of words modifying the word margarita, but no, no, I have not.
So, at several Jose Andres restaurants, including China Poblano and Jaleo at the Cosmo, they make a margarita where instead of salting the glass with lime, they use a chemical agent to create a foam that has salt suspended in it. Down the road, Bill, I'm going to send you a package of that chemical agent. And not only are we going to do a margarita with it, we're going to dress a Mexican beer with that foam with some lime in it as well.
That actually sounds interesting to me. I would 100% be willing to do that. Um,
Yeah. And
and
mostly my wife said that your wife needs that margarita in her life. So,
I feel like I can trust her judgment. She's got a good sense of what Rachel likes in life.
well, Bill, I think so this isn't Siskel and Ebert thumbs down and thumbs up. You liked it, you just didn't love it. I almost loved it. So we're thumbs meh.
I'm thumb sideways. Like it is fine. I would be happy to drink one again if that's what somebody was serving. I don't know that it's one that I would order.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like I said, I think next time I just stick with my classic whiskey sour. Well, Bill, we beat that horse to death. Why don't we jump into some Las Vegas news?
All right. Well, listeners, our first segment is dining and drinking news because it turns out that dining and drinking are things that John and I like to do. And our first story in dining and drinking news, Vegas Publicity reports that RNG Lounge, which is a legendary San Francisco establishment known for Cantonese cuisine, announced plans to open a location at the Forum Shops of Caesar's Palace. The OG RNG began in Chinatown basement 40 years ago and has become a lauded culinary landmark both for the authenticity of their dishes and their reputation for gracious service. So, John, that one actually sounds pretty interesting to me. Like, that's a place I'd want to check out. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. And some of the pictures on there, at least showing what they do in San Francisco, there's a lot of the big round tables with the lazy Susans in the middle, so you can order multiple entrees, family style. I think this is a place that would be best for a big group. So, a guy's trip, a couple's trip, where we have at least four, preferably 6 or 8 people with us, because that way you could try a whole host of their dishes and get that old school Chinese food experience.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And one of the great advantages of Las Vegas is the ability to try cuisines that I just can't get in Alabama. That sounds like a lot of fun. Well, what other new restaurants are opening up?
Scott of Idle Vegas reported on locals' favorite Sam's Town getting a new gastropub, a trend Boyd Gaming is favoring across all their properties, and a renovated sports book with a sports deli. The pricing in both venues is set for locals, but savvy tourists looking to save a few bucks should keep this option in mind. Bill, we've talked more and more about hitting up some of these off strip and not Fremont venues. Does Sam's Town have any potential appeal to you?
Uh, no, but it also like, if that's where you wanna go when it's your day to pick where we're going, that's fine. I'll go check it out. And sure, that seems like a perfectly decent place that I would go check out. I guess when I'm thinking about cheap eats in Vegas, because that's absolutely a thing I want, but when I want cheap eats in Vegas, I don't want to have to go out of my way. I want the cheap eats that are close to wherever I already am, and I probably didn't start my day in Sam's Town.
That's fair, although it's a cool piece of Vegas history. The band The Killers got their start in Sam's Town, named an album after it actually. But Billy, if you want cheap eats close to the strip, I think the next story has you.
The next story does, but the restaurant doesn't. Chris Holmes, who tweets from @7suited, tweeted his review of the 3.99 sliders now on the menu at the hot dog stand inside the Casino Royale. He says they are, quote, not bad, close quote, but recommended getting the 11.99 combo, which is two sliders, fries, and a drink. At that price, not bad is pretty good for Vegas bargain hunters seeking a quick bite. John, have you ever actually been to that hot dog stand? I know you've talked about it. Have you ever actually eaten there?
Yes.
Were
Now,
you sober?
as far as I get in Vegas, sure, let's say I was. Bill, it really like look, once upon a time in my life, I worked for a 7-Eleven. I am not afraid of roller grill hot dogs, which is what they have, right? They serve a quality hot dog. They also have bratwurst, those other things. The ingredients that they top it with are perfectly fine and safe. They have a nice pillowy bun. I'm not claiming it's a gourmet experience, but I was staying at the Palazzo. There was nothing cheap open at the Palazzo. I made my way over there. I had a foot long hot dog and a nice cold beer. I think at the time, this was like 6 years ago, I got out for, I don't know, $7. The place is a good deal. And granted, it is not a gourmet experience. It is not the centerpiece meal of your day. But sometimes you just need food in the stomach before going to bed or hitting up the tables again. And it scratches the itch.
So, John, before we move on to entertainment and sports news, what you just pointed to is one of the reasons I become such a huge fan of Biloxi, of Gulf Coast Vegas. So, when I go to Harrah's this weekend, there in Biloxi, they've got a steak and shake there in the restaurant. So, I absolutely want cheap eats. I don't want to eat a fancy meal all the time. But something like Steak and Shake is something I can get my head around. Like, I understand what I'm getting. There's probably a health certificate. It's been validated by other users. I would be way more likely to give something like that a shot.
Yeah, I get the feeling I've eaten way more gas station hot dogs than you, and I just have more faith in my immune system.
Dude, I lived in Mexico City for 2 years. I've eaten street food in Mexico. I'm still not going into Casino Royale to eat. Well, what's
Uh,
going on in entertainment and sports news, John?
the Neon Museum is planning an event with disgraced casino legend Steve Wynn on October 22nd, which will focus on his inarguably legendary history of managing and, more importantly, building some of the most iconic properties in Las Vegas. While one cannot possibly tell the story of Vegas without highlighting Wynn's massive contributions, as Scott from Vital Vegas points out, celebrating Wynn and giving him a platform is problematic given the nature of the accusations that caused his 2018 fall from grace. Scott isn't alone. Many online have expressed their objection to celebrating Wynn, but it's worth noting that the event set for late October is already sold out. So somebody wants to see it.
So, the accusations are very serious, and we should absolutely take them seriously. I, I mean, just philosophically, I struggle with punishing somebody who's never gone through any sort of a court process, particularly when, as in a case like this, he absolutely was essential to building the city. So do I wanna hang out with the guy? I mean, probably not. But do I have a problem with the event? Also no.
Yeah, I feel like I'm very similar to where you are. I'm not going to lobby the Neon Museum to cancel this event. I'm not going to boycott the museum, any of that. Personally, would I spend my money to go? I don't think so, but I'm also not all up in arms on this one.
Fair enough. Well, in other news, Scott at Vital Vegas, who we're quoting even more often on this episode than we usually do, reported that Menopause the Musical ended its 20-year run at Harrah's this past June. And John, I'm not reading the rest of that bullet. Um,
I got it. We would make jokes about the subject matter of that musical, but as married men in our 50s, we don't want to upset our wives lest Menopause, the murder documentary, become a thing.
Goddamn, John. Um, I hope good things for you. I do. I hope good things for you. Um, I am not much of a show person in Las Vegas. What kind of a show would it take to draw you to Vegas for the purpose of watching a show?
Oh, well, I mean, if there was a big concert I wanted to see or for something special at the Sphere, I would go to Vegas just for a show. But my approach to shows in Vegas is more I'm planning to go to Vegas because I want to go to Vegas. And oh, by the way, what kind of shows are out there? Normally, I gravitate towards stand up comedy or live music. I love places that let you sit in on live music for free while you buy a few drinks. Even if it's local bands that aren't famous, it's just fun. I have a feeling this show made 20 years for that crowd, the crowd that I don't think anybody booked a flight from Poughkeepsie to go see Menopause the musical. I think it's if you happen to be in the neighborhood and had nothing better to do and you got a good deal on tickets, pastime.
Fair. Although my buddy Ryan sometimes goes to Vegas just for the shows. Now, usually those are at the behest of his wife, but there is an audience who goes to Vegas specifically for whatever show they're watching. Well, John, since I refuse to end the last story, I'll also read the next one. Area 15 will open its new Universal Horror expansion on August 14th and has more expansion in the works. The just off the strip entertainment venue, known for trippy immersive experiences, has welcomed over 15 million visitors in their 6-year history. Um, so I've heard a lot about Area 15. I'm not going to lie, I don't know that the Universal Horror experience is all that interesting to me. But is this that place where Mike and Melissa went for like the weird liquor thing, or was that somewhere else?
Yes, and Lori and I did that one too. That was Lost Spirits Distillery, which sadly has closed. And that was on one of the adjacent outbuildings. It's not inside Area 15 itself, but they have property around it. I believe that building is now part of the Universal Horror that they've built in. It is a fun place to hang out. Some of the things are free. Most of them will cost extra when you get in there. They have a couple of dining venues. They have a really cool bar in the middle of the venue. Bill, it's a fun place to be, and you'll lose no money there because there's no gambling.
Huh. But if there's a bar, I bet I still lose money.
I bet you do.
Hmm. What else is going on, John?
Fox 5 Las Vegas announced that Morrissey, the 67-year-old singer and former Smiths frontman, abruptly canceled. Boy, the typos are plentiful tonight. His 4 night residency scheduled for what for me and Bill is this upcoming weekend, August 14th through 18th at the Wynn. As an aside, I think the Wynn is a really weird venue for Morrissey. Anyway, although Ticketmaster will process full refunds for ticket holders, that doesn't do much for fans who plan flights and hotel stays around these shows. Bill, you kind of got into this with previous cancellations, I believe with Adele. How do you feel about Morrissey just dropping out at the last minute?
So, there are two different things. The first is the legal matter, and the legal matter is everything that's been owed the patrons has been paid. As a, I don't know, ethical matter, it would really depend to me on why they canceled. Um, I would, if I had booked a trip around this, I would want some sort of a make good from from the Smiths, and what I would accept as a make good would depend on the reason for the cancellation. But I would think maybe throwing some sort I mean, refunding the money and throwing a ticket to a free concert somewhere in the future, that makes fair.
Yeah.
I mean, you're never gonna get to a world where you're, like, refunding flights and hotel stays, and frankly, I don't favor that either because a whole lot of people would claim that was the reason for the trip when it was simply an add-on. But yeah, and we've talked about it before, I just depending on the reason for the cancellation, I don't feel like simply a refund is enough. Now, you usually take the opposite position of that.
Well, I think this is just a case of look, things happen with performers. Morrissey's kind of known for one, he's getting older, and two, sometimes he takes a political stance. Sometimes he gets mad at a company. Sometimes he's mad at the promoter. If you follow somebody who has a little bit of a reputation for being mercurial, or somebody who's over the age of 60 and still performing, you just kind of got to know in the back of your head stuff can happen. I don't plan trips solely around shows. I book a trip when I want to go to Vegas and then I see what shows are there. Even if I did book, let's say I could make my calendar and my budget work to go catch the Eagles at the Sphere. If they had to drop a show, I still get to go to Vegas. I'd be upset, but I would find a way to let Vegas console me.
So, sure, you would. And for something like that, that makes sense. I guess the analogy I'm thinking of is I've ever taken one trip where there was a centerpiece event that determined it. In 2018, when American travel rules were different, I took a cruise to Cuba. And that cruise stopped a couple other places in the Caribbean, but the entire reason for the cruise, the entire point was to go to Cuba. And had that cruise not stopped in Cuba, um, after I'd already paid for, hotels and plane tickets, that would absolutely have what I don't know, it would have had a devastating impact on the travel plan. So if I'm in Vegas, meh, sure, no one event is ever central. I can see for some people it might be.
So I will say this: if you're in that position where my only reason for this trip is event X, buy travel insurance so you can cancel. The travel insurance isn't cheap, but it's not that expensive. And if you really feel like if Morrissey's not singing, I'm not going. If they cancel this particular itinerary before I get on the boat, I'm not going. Travel insurance has your back. So if you're traveling for that kind of reason, I think that's how you protect yourself.
I see your point. Well, in other stories, ESPN's Ryan McFadden broke the story of defensive end Max Crosby getting into a fist fight with veteran quarterback Kirk Cousins at Raiders practice on August 7th after Cousins accused Crosby of a dirty hit. The next day, both players were suspended from Raiders practice, allowing top draft pick Fernando Mendoza to get all the reps with the first team. We also note that in the midst of all this, pardon me, rumors have been swirling for weeks that the Dallas Cowboys are still trying to get the Raiders to trade Crosby, so any inter squad squabbling is music to Jerry Jones's ear. I will say, John, that I now note Mendoza is back to being second string on the depth chart. I'm not sure how long that lasts.
I think Cousins is your starting quarterback on day one. I got a feeling we see Mendoza by Thanksgiving at the latest.
Yeah, that sounds about right. If you're giving me a before or after, an over under on Thanksgiving, I take the before, but sure, that seems like a pretty reasonable guess.
And by the way, listeners, I know that Max isn't coming to the Cowboys. I know it's a pipe dream. Allow me the fantasy for a little while longer, okay?
Fantasy is all he has, folks. He is a Cowboys fan.
That is very true. Well, let's jump on to casino hospitality and travel news. Zooks has announced, Gadzooks, that free rides are over. The self driving taxi service, which didn't charge during the testing period, is now ready to compete with Lyft and Uber on a pay per ride basis. Paid rides started Monday, which from our point of view is yesterday, August 10th, TechCrunch reports that there will be a structure similar to comfort tier costs with Lyft and Uber, though no drivers, riders will save on tips. We're only a day into this bill. I haven't seen anybody post online about the cost of these rides. But if it's the same price as an Uber, but you don't have to tip, is this a better deal from your point of view, all else being equal?
Is it a better deal? Absolutely. I just can't get over in my head it being weird. Like I understand on an intellectual level the statistics and the safety reports and all that. Like I get it. I can't make it work in my head. So I don't know that I'm ready to do it regardless of the cost. How about you?
So I hear you on weird, but do you remember the time we were on a couples trip and the Uber driver threatened to not take us back to the strip from Fremont if we didn't sing with him?
Oh. Oh yeah. Yeah, that was weird.
I'll take robot weird over that weird. And granted, most of the rideshare drivers I've had have either been a complete delight or they didn't speak any English and they pleasantly left me alone and got me there safely. I've only had a couple of sketchy experiences, but it turns out, yeah, I think I'm ready for our robot overlords to drive me around.
So my favorite Uber experience was, and it may have been that same ride, but that driver took a very specific position on the present occupant of the White House, who was so it must have been 4 or 5 years ago because President Trump was also president at that point, took a very specific position on the Trump presidency and wanted to know that we took the same position.
Yes.
And I, as a rule, just wasn't gonna comment. So
Yeah.
sure, that was weird, but at least I knew who was responsible for driving the car.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I feel you. I had a similar experience with a tow truck driver towing my busted down car in Dallas to his brother's shop. Both the mechanic and the tow truck driver being Palestinian, they found out that in my first career I was clergy. They wanted to know all my thoughts on Israel, and I did not want to get into it. So I said, "Whatever you fellas think, when's my car going to be ready?" Because I was not getting into it.
Yeah, no, that is safe.
Yeah.
Well, um, no, you read that story. I'm sorry. I am so bad at things, John. Much like you, I had a work day. So, Corey Leviton from casino.org reports that five Gen Z influencers were brought in by the Las Vegas Convention and Visitor Authority on a $25,000 summer internship in the hope of enticing more Gen Z folks to come gamble in Vegas, something that the younger generation hasn't taken to. In spite of their efforts, the influencers failed to generate many interactions with their post. So, John, what do you think drives the relative lack of interest by those just barely 21 and coming to Vegas? Because I know that as soon as I turned 21, my friends instantly started talking about, dude, we got to go to Vegas, and they would try to find like those super cheap, horrible coupon deals that existed in the 90s.
Well, and this was specifically about gambling behavior, not just to get young folks to Vegas, but to get them to come and gamble. It could just be at 21, how much discernible discretionary income do you have to gamble? But the other one in a story I almost put on the run sheet, but I think runs hand in hand with this unregulated online sports gambling or, the prediction markets that present themselves as investments. But, let's be real, that's an online sports book. I think for those in that generation who can afford to gamble, there's ways to do it on their phone. And that generation likes to do stuff on their phone.
They do indeed. Well, John, our next segment is one of my favorites. The Las Vegas is a real place where people actually live news. Why don't you take our first story?
According to the New York Times and other sources, Lake Mead is at its lowest level ever. Folks, use your water carefully when you stay in southern Nevada. Bill, do you have any hopes that a strong El Nino might help rectify this, or are they just in for hard times out there?
Uh, I can't imagine anything other than them just being in for hard times out there. Now, to be clear, I don't know that I buy the catastrophic "the sky is falling" thing, but water allocations on the Colorado River were based on the population that lived there over 100 years ago, I don't know that God ever intended for tens of millions of people to live in that area, and there's just not enough water for them. So I hope for all the very best with rainfall.
Indeed, I do as well. Bill, what else we got on the local Vegas front?
The Paseo Verde Little League team plays for the Mountain Region Championship on Friday, which is the day this episode drops. If they win, they will advance to the Little League World Series at Williamsport, which would be, I think, the second consecutive year that a team from Las Vegas would be playing there. And John, the reason that I included this story is it's the whole point of this segment. You and I think of, as do so many Americans, think of Vegas as a tourist destination, but people do real things and live their lives there. And I guess I will close with this. When you're in Vegas, be nice to the people who take care of you because quite frequently they have kids, like the ones on this little league team. Um, they live a life that is awful similar to the way one that you live. It's just hotter where they are.
Yes, it is. So tip and be polite. That's great advice. So, Bill, we don't have a WTF story tonight, so we're going to jump into a main topic. A couple episodes ago, we jumped into our favorite uh, luxury rewards credit cards. This week, we're going to take a different tactic. Let's talk about branded travel cards that could be branded by an airline or a hotel. Do you have any that you recommend or don't recommend?
So, would it be okay if I treated this as an honorable mention and then the one I actually like?
Sure.
The thing that I care about with branded credit cards is, does it help me gain elite status in whatever the travel program is? Because that comes with a lot of perks that I care about. So, my honorable mention card is the Hilton card, which is really very good. It gets me a lot of things like I always get free breakfast. I get a few other perks, sometimes some occasionally upgraded rooms. I earn miles at a higher rate. Those are super easy to cash in on Hilton, and my annual fee is, I don't know, it's 1 or 200 bucks. It's not bad. My favorite though is the entire suite of American Airlines credit cards, and I think I've got three of them. One of which
Oh, wow.
includes my Admirals Club membership. And on the one hand, and Rachel, if you're listening to this, close your ears, close them, sweetheart. You don't want to listen to this part, sweetheart. One of them costs 4 or maybe $5. And that one comes with my Admirals Club membership, which would actually cost me that much money anyway. I've added my kids onto that card, so when they travel going to schools overseas, they have access to the Admirals Club, so it's actually a really good deal. But all of the American Airlines cards, the miles I generate count not just for redeemable miles, and the American Airlines program is pretty good with letting me trade in miles for things I care about, but they also help me qualify for elite status. I've had executive platinum for 3 or 4 years running now, which really comes in handy when things happen like irregular travel ops. Like for example, 2 Vegas trips ago, there were storms. I needed to get on a different flight out of Vegas. The reason I got the last seat on the plane on standby is because of my executive platinum status. The reason I had it is because of all the credit cards I carry. So it brings some real benefits that I very much care about. So, yeah, I like that. Tell me about you, John. Like what and well, I think we probably do this by you talking about yours and we go back and forth on what we value. Well, what's your favorite branded travel card?
So I'm going to be really honest. I'm going to give some thoughts, and I wouldn't say either of these are my favorite. So I want to talk about MGM. I have both their base card and their iconic card. And the iconic card, both of these cards, here's what you get with either of them. You're going to get upgraded to Pearl status, and you're going to be able to earn points that you could turn into free gambling or comps or both with every dollar you spend, whether you're in Vegas or not, right? Including multipliers for what you spend in Vegas or at other MGM properties. The iconic card charges a $300 a year annual fee. You get one resort credit for 200 bucks, and if you meet a minimum spend threshold, I think of 25,000 a year, you get a second one. So if you hit both, you actually get back more in resort credit than you do what you spent on the card. Also, that iconic card, your tier credits and your free play points accrue much faster than with the baseline card. So if you are an MGM fan and you plan to stay on MGM resorts properties at least once a year, either of these cards really does come in handy. I do like uh, that there are some places I could skip a line with Pearl, or the credit card lets me skip a line. There are some perks for this. You get tier rollover with the iconic card. So if you're one of those people that always comes up just shy of making gold, well, you could keep some of those points the next year. So maybe the next year you clear the hurdle. The downside of this is, even with all of the credits, the deals on this card and my comps, because I'm not a big gambler, aren't that much better than what I can get at MGM properties just using my Chase Sapphire. So it's not a bad deal, but I don't know whether or not I'm going to keep the iconic card past the following year. Does that make sense, Bill?
No, that does make sense. Um, yeah, it's I don't know. I whatever. I guess I am so thoroughly into my rewards architecture. I haven't paid enough attention that I thought about getting the MGM cards for a while, but then I quit traveling to Vegas as often, and the American Airlines card helps me regardless of where I travel. Like I'm 3 weeks from right now, I'm going to be in Ireland. And I'm using a lot of my miles so that I don't have to fly in economy class, right? So it's yeah, no, what you're saying is makes sense, but you've also been a big fan of Southwest for a while. Tell me a little more about that.
Oy vey. So the Southwest credit card, and I have the priority, which is the top tier you can get unless you're a business customer. That used to come with drink coupons, and some other things that were useful. Now it does let me have one bag fly free, but everybody used to get that. It does let me upgrade to extended legroom seats depending on availability. But honestly, Bill, I've noticed that on the Chase Sapphire app, I can often book other airlines cheaper than Southwest. My whole point of the Southwest card was Southwest was the cheapest airline I would willingly fly. I wasn't going to do Spirit, rest in peace, Spirit, or JetBlue. I don't want an airline that treated me as second tier. Southwest was quirky. I liked the cattle call boarding, although I don't mind that they got away from that. That's okay. But the bags fly free program was important. The pricing was important. And having that credit card made my budget airline even better. But now, Bill, like my daughter is flying out to Virginia at the end of the week, both American and United were cheaper to get her back there than Southwest. So why should I stay loyal to Southwest when I could just rack up more Chase Sapphire miles and use them on whichever plane I feel like flying that next trip?
So you've got a powerful argument about the Chase Sapphire card because you can use it on any travel product. I guess I guess for me, the reason that I focus on one particular travel product, American Airlines, is because of the routes I fly. Sometimes I have to fly them, and the other times it's a pretty strong option. Like my kids are flying out to Colorado later on this weekend to see my sister. It was the only way to get there that just had one stop, right?
Right.
All the other options were going to require two stops, so it was objectively it wasn't the only way to get there, but it was better. I value the benefits there, but your travel plans are different. So having something like the Chase Sapphire that you can use on any sort of a travel experience, yeah, man, I get your point. I get why that makes sense.
Yeah, and it gives you that versatility. And I would say that, listeners, your home airport, Southwest may still be your very best option. It often is out of mine. Uh, but I will say I had that card mostly because I had a deep sense of loyalty to Southwest. I was going to fly Southwest no matter what, unless somebody had bought me a ticket with their points. I no longer feel that degree of loyalty to Southwest. I'm not saying I won't fly them, but I won't automatically assume they're who I'm flying. I'm going to comparison shop from now on. And for that reason, I think I may well let this card go.
You know, that makes good sense to me. I would encourage you to hold on to your MGM credit card, but here's why. It has nothing to do with you and your travel needs. It has to do with me and wanting to see my buddy. So you know that I can drive from here to Biloxi. If you've got to trade in MGM points, maybe you go spend them at the Beau Rivage, which I can drive to, and then you and I can have a Bible study, drink some club soda, maybe have a nice salad. It'd be a lovely weekend.
How's the pool at the Bow?
Uh, it's pretty honestly, if you want a pool day, I would say the Hard Rock is a better pool day, but the Beau Rivage pool is still very nice. Rachel and I are going there in 4 weeks. And granted, it'll be Labor Day weekend, but I looked 4 weeks out, all the cabanas were already booked. Like,
Oh,
it is
wow.
absolutely a thing that people do. But also, I mean, a nice cabana on a holiday weekend was still only, I don't know, 350 bucks.
Which is way less than you'll pay at an MGM resort in Vegas.
Yeah. Um, Although a higher risk of seeing Madge from Boise.
Well, no, I don't think it's going to be Madge from Boise. I think it's going to be Lurleen from Chunky, Mississippi, which is a real town. Look it up, and it is, and they are.
Well, John, does that about wrap it up for this episode?
I think it does. We just lost our only listener from Chunky, Mississippi, and I need to shut up before we lose any more listeners. Bill, why don't you tell them where to get more Dine Drink Vegas and Dine Drink travel content?
Folks, please look for us on YouTube at Dine Drink Travel, where we bring short and focused videos to help you plan your next trip. We have a lot of videos about hotels in Las Vegas, as well as executive lounges in the Las Vegas airport, but premium travel generally, other premium lounges in other airports, what my first class and business class flights have been like, and things like my upscale hotel stays in Ireland. You can also find me on essentially every social media platform at Dine Drink Travel, but the most important of those is probably X, because that's where you can find John.
I'm at Dine Drink John, where I'm more than happy to talk to you about coffee, about booze, about Vegas, about Texas, and about the Dallas Cowboys, and about why suddenly I wonder why I let myself run out of absinthe, because this is delicious. We're so glad you took the time to listen to this podcast. If you've got a friend who's planning a trip to Vegas or an enemy who hates listening to old fat white guys drink and talk, please take the link to this episode, send it to them, tie it to the leg of a carrier pigeon, write it on the wall of the bathroom stall, whatever you can do to help promote this podcast, to find us more listeners so we can keep bringing you this amazing and free, top shelf, premium Las Vegas travel content. Thank you so much for listening. And until the next episode, happy travels.